He drank that morning. My dad.
It looked like a nostalgic love letter to Spielberg-era adventure, but Super 8 was hiding far darker secrets behind the camera. A lead actor who showed up hoping to earn $100, a creature designed after its lair already existed, and a train crash engineered to lie to your eyes at every possible angle. These are 20 strange, disturbing, and unbelievable facts behind Super 8.
Why did this happen?
Martin, it's gonna be okay.
No, it's not, dude.
Fact 1. The lead actor only wanted $100. When Joel Courtney auditioned for Super 8, he wasn't trying to launch a movie career or chase fame. He was a teenager from Idaho visiting his brother in Los Angeles, hoping to land a small commercial and earn about $100 before heading home. He had no agent, no professional acting background, and no sense of how massive the audition process would become. One callback quietly turned into another, stretching into 11 rounds as thousands of other kids were gradually eliminated. Joel wasn't dismissed. Instead of earning pocket money, he was cast as the emotional core of a Spielberg-produced film, suddenly carrying themes of grief and loss far heavier than anything he had planned for. Fact 2. Over 5,000 kids auditioned for the film. J.J. Abrams believed Super 8 would only work if the kids felt authentic, which meant avoiding recognizable child actors entirely. That choice triggered an enormous casting search that brought in more than 5,000 children from across the country. Some arrived trained and confident, while others were nervous and completely unpolished. Abrams focused less on perfect line delivery and more on natural behavior, watching how kids listened, interrupted each other, and reacted when scenes drifted off script. Many auditions encouraged improvisation, allowing conversations to overlap and personalities to emerge organically. Chemistry mattered more than technique, and authenticity mattered more than control. As the field narrowed, it became clear which kids felt like real friends rather than assembled performers. When casting was complete, the group didn't feel manufactured by a studio. They felt discovered, which is why their relationships on screen feel unusually honest and lived in. Fact 3. The creature was designed backwards. Most movie monsters are designed first, with environments built to support their anatomy and movement. Super 8 reversed that entire process. When creature designer Neville Page joined the production, the alien's underground lair had already been constructed. The tunnels, chambers, and confined spaces existed before the creature meant to live there. Instead of freely inventing a design, Page studied the environment and asked what kind of organism could realistically survive in those conditions. Tight corridors dictated posture and movement, while captivity suggested damage rather than dominance. Every design choice needed to feel functional instead of flashy. The result was a creature shaped by its surroundings rather than built for spectacle, giving it the unsettling impression of something discovered by accident. That backward approach made the alien feel less like a movie monster and more like a living being humanity was never meant to uncover. Fact 4. The alien screams are made from real animal pain sounds. One of the most disturbing elements in Super 8 isn't something you ever fully see. It's something you hear. The alien screams weren't created using traditional monster sound effects. Instead, the sound design team built them from heavily manipulated recordings of real animals in distress. These included slowed-down animal calls, reversed vocalizations, and layered cries that the human brain instinctively recognizes as pain, even when it can't identify the source. That decision was deliberate. J.J. Abrams wanted the alien to sound unsettling on a primal level, triggering discomfort rather than excitement. The screams weren't meant to feel cool or cinematic. They were designed to feel wrong, almost mournful, as if the creature itself was suffering. This approach subtly shifts how audiences perceive the alien, making it feel less like a villain and more like a wounded presence. The fear doesn't come from volume or aggression, it comes from empathy colliding with terror. Fact 5. The train crash wasn't shot on a soundstage. Despite the heavy visual manipulation in the derailment, J.J. Abrams refused to shoot the sequence on a soundstage. Instead, the production filmed the major train crash scenes outdoors at night, creating conditions that made the shoot far more demanding. Night shoots stretched long, explosions required complex lighting setups, and crews worked through cold temperatures and physical exhaustion. For the child actors, the environment was overwhelming but controlled, filled with deafening sound, blinding light, and constant motion. Abrams encouraged natural reactions rather than rigid choreography, allowing fear and confusion to surface organically within safe limits. That discomfort translated directly onto the screen. The fear feels raw because the experience was genuinely exhausting. Super 8 didn't just simulate chaos through effects, it placed its cast inside an immersive, physically demanding environment and let real reactions bleed into the performances. Fact 6. A Star Trek actor helped perform the alien. Although the alien in Super 8 is largely hidden for much of the runtime, its presence was shaped by a familiar face behind the scenes. Bruce Greenwood, who had previously worked with J.J. Abrams in Star Trek, contributed motion capture reference and performance elements for the creature. Rather than simply animating the alien from scratch, the effects team studied Greenwood's physical movements to ground the creature in believable weight and intent. His performance wasn't meant to be recognized, but to give the alien subtle human qualities that made its actions feel motivated rather than random. Greenwood is even credited in the film under the name Cooper, though audiences never see him as a human character. The choice added an unusual layer of realism, helping the creature feel less like a visual effect and more like a living presence reacting emotionally to its captivity. Fact 7. The alien was designed to echo Joe's emotional grief. The alien in Super 8 wasn't designed solely to frighten the audience. J.J. Abrams wanted it to function as an emotional mirror to Joe Lamb, a character defined by loss and unresolved grief. As the creature's design evolved, subtle choices were made to reflect vulnerability beneath its terrifying exterior. The alien is scarred, confined, and angry, but also damaged and desperate to escape captivity, mirroring Joe's internal struggle following his mother's death. Rather than presenting the creature as purely hostile, Abrams framed it as something broken by trauma. That thematic connection becomes clear in the final act, when Joe's ability to let go of his grief parallels the creature's release. The alien doesn't simply leave Earth, it resolves the emotional conflict at the heart of the story. This approach transformed the creature from a standard movie monster into a symbolic extension of the film's core emotional arc. Fact 8. The town was named after Abrams' grandmother. Despite its large-scale action and science fiction elements, Super 8 is deeply personal for J.J. Abrams. One of the clearest signs of that is the film's setting. The fictional town of Lillian, Ohio, was named after Abrams' grandmother, grounding the story in something real and emotionally significant to him. Abrams has often described the film as a reflection on childhood, loss, and the moment when innocence begins to fracture. Naming the town after a family member quietly reinforced that theme, transforming the setting into more than just a backdrop for spectacle. Lillian isn't meant to feel like a generic small town. It's meant to feel remembered. That personal connection influenced everything from the tone of the story to the way the kids interact with their environment. Beneath the alien invasion and explosions, Super 8 is ultimately a film about memory, shaped by Abrams' own. Fact 9. Spielberg hired Abrams as a teenager. Long before Super 8 reunited Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams as collaborators, the two shared an unlikely history. As a teenager, Abrams and his friend Matt Reeves were hired by Spielberg to help restore one of his earliest amateur films, Firelight. At the time, Abrams was barely old enough to drive, yet he was suddenly working with the filmmaker who had defined modern blockbuster cinema. The experience gave Abrams early exposure to storytelling, editing, and the idea that personal films could evolve into something much larger. Decades later, Super 8 became a full-circle moment, blending Abrams' childhood love of filmmaking with Spielberg's influence as a producer. The film's themes of kids making movies, experimenting with cameras, and learning through trial and error echo Abrams' own beginnings. Super 8 isn't just inspired by Spielberg's films, it's shaped by Abrams' direct connection to Spielberg's past. Fact 10. They couldn't actually use Super 8 film. One of the great ironies of Super 8 is that the movie couldn't rely on actual Super 8 film stock for its most important sequences. J.J. Abrams initially wanted the kids in-movie zombie film to be shot on real Super 8 cameras, but technical limitations quickly became a problem. The grainy, unstable footage made it nearly impossible for industrial light and magic to integrate modern visual effects convincingly. To preserve flexibility in post-production, the filmmakers switched to Super 16 instead, which offered a similar texture while allowing digital enhancements. The decision ensured continuity with the rest of the film while still evoking the homemade aesthetic Abrams wanted. What audiences see feels authentically rough and nostalgic, even though it required modern filmmaking compromises. The result is a visual illusion that reinforces the theme of memory, blending old-school charm with contemporary technology behind the scenes. Fact 11. The teaser trailer was made in just 4 weeks. The first teaser for Super 8 arrived with almost no context, and that mystery was intentional. What most viewers never realized is how little time the team had to make it. Industrial Light and Magic completed the teaser in roughly 4 weeks from start to finish, with only about half that time spent in pre-production. The schedule was brutally compressed, especially for a piece meant to tease a major studio release without revealing its premise. The trailer focused on mood, sound, and implication rather than explanation, using fragments of the train crash and the sound of something escaping to ignite speculation. That restraint worked. The teaser didn't explain the movie, it invited obsession. Online theories exploded, frame-by-frame breakdowns followed, and anticipation grew precisely because so little was shown. The rushed schedule accidentally created one of the most effective mystery trailers of the decade. Fact 12. Super 8 secretly references a classic Twilight Zone episode. Details matter to J.J. Abrams, especially when it comes to the stories that shaped his childhood. In Super 8, the military's mission to capture the alien is called Operation Walking Distance, a direct reference to a classic episode of The Twilight Zone. That episode tells the story of a man who longs to return to the innocence of his childhood, only to learn that the past can't truly be reclaimed. The reference isn't accidental. Super 8 explores the same idea, using science fiction as a framework to examine memory, grief, and the moment when childhood begins to fade. Naming the operation after that episode quietly reinforces the film's emotional core. While the military sees the alien as a threat to be contained, the story underneath is about people struggling to move forward. The reference goes unnoticed by most viewers, but it perfectly encapsulates the film's deeper meaning. Fact 13. The zombie movie hid a George Romero tribute. Inside the chaos of alien crashes and military cover-ups, Super 8 hides a loving tribute to one of horror's most influential filmmakers. In the kids' homemade zombie movie, the chemical company blamed for the outbreak is called Romero Chemicals, a clear nod to George A. Romero. Romero's films defined modern zombie mythology, and his influence runs quietly through the structure of the kids' film within a film. The reference isn't explained or highlighted, making it a reward for attentive viewers rather than a flashy Easter egg. It also reinforces the authenticity of the kids' obsession with movies. These aren't generic young filmmakers. They're kids who have clearly absorbed genre history and are remixing it with enthusiasm. The tribute grounds their creativity in real fandom, reminding audiences that Super 8 is as much about the joy of making movies as it is about the spectacle unfolding around them. Fact 14. A familiar face appears as Abrams' good luck charm. J.J. Abrams has a long-running tradition of sneaking his close friend Greg Grunberg into nearly every project he works on, treating him as a personal good luck charm. Super 8 continues that tradition in a way most viewers never notice. Grunberg doesn't appear as a character interacting with the cast. Instead, he shows up briefly on a television screen as a sitcom actor, tucked into the background of the story. The cameo is easy to miss unless you're actively looking for it, which is exactly the point. Abrams doesn't use the appearance for attention or humor. It's a quiet signature, embedded naturally into the world of the film. The tradition reflects Abrams' loyalty to longtime collaborators and his belief that filmmaking is built on relationships as much as spectacle, even when the final product is a massive studio release. Fact 15. The kids' film plays in full during the end credits. One of the most charming decisions in Super 8 comes after the story has already ended. During the end credits, the entire zombie movie the kids were making plays in full. This wasn't a montage or a shortened version. The film was actually shot alongside the main production, with the child actors operating cameras, acting out scenes, and leaning into the rough, homemade style they were meant to portray. Letting the full movie run serves a deeper purpose. It reminds the audience that before aliens, explosions, and grief, the story was always about kids making something together. The end credits quietly shift the focus away from spectacle and back to creativity, collaboration, and innocence. It's a rare moment where a blockbuster ends not with escalation, but with a celebration of imagination, closing the film on the same childlike wonder that started it. Fact 16. Super 8 was never meant to be a kids' movie. Despite its young cast and nostalgic tone, Super 8 was never designed to be a children's film. J.J. Abrams intentionally wrote the story to sit in an uncomfortable space between childhood adventure and adult grief, resisting pressure to soften its darker elements. The movie deals openly with death, emotional repression, military violence, and trauma. Themes rarely centered in films led by kids. Studio executives were aware that the tone might confuse audiences expecting a lighthearted adventure, but Abrams pushed forward anyway. He wanted the film to reflect how childhood actually feels when it collides with loss, not how it's usually romanticized on screen. That tonal tension is why Super 8 often feels heavier than its Spielberg-era inspiration. It isn't a movie about kids surviving danger. It's a movie about kids confronting grief before they're emotionally prepared to understand it. Fact 17. Jeremy Renner turned down a major role. Before Kyle Chandler stepped into the role of Deputy Jackson Lamb, the part was offered to Jeremy Renner. At the time, Renner was in the middle of a career surge and faced a scheduling conflict that forced him to choose between projects. He ultimately passed on Super 8 in favor of Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, a decision driven more by logistics than creative preference. While Renner's involvement never materialized, the casting shift subtly changed the tone of the character. Chandler brought a quieter, more grounded presence to the role, emphasizing grief and restraint over intensity. In hindsight, the choice aligns closely with the film's emotional direction. Rather than turning the father figure into a conventional action hero, Super 8 leans into stillness and vulnerability. Renner's absence became part of the film's identity, shaping its emotional texture rather than diminishing it. Fact 18. Much of the kids' dialogue was improvised. Although Super 8 had a complete script, J.J. Abrams rarely treated it as rigid law when working with the child actors. Instead of demanding precise line delivery, he often gave the kids the emotional goal of a scene and allowed conversations to unfold naturally. Dialogue overlapped, interruptions were encouraged, awkward pauses were left intact. This approach created moments that felt spontaneous rather than performed, capturing the way kids actually talk when adults aren't directing them. Many of the film's most memorable exchanges weren't planned word for word, but emerged organically during filming. Abrams believed that authenticity mattered more than polish, especially for a story centered on friendship and childhood creativity. The result is a rhythm that feels lived in rather than scripted. The kids don't sound like actors delivering lines, they sound like friends navigating chaos together. Fact 19. A video game. Let you experience the crash interactively. The world of Super 8 extended beyond the movie screen in an unexpected way through a collaboration with the video game Portal 2. Players were given access to an interactive experience that recreated the train derailment from the film, allowing them to witness the chaos from a first-person perspective. The crossover wasn't just promotional, it leaned into mystery, using sound design and environmental storytelling to suggest the presence of something dangerous without fully revealing it. Players could hear metal tearing, alarms blaring, and something moving just out of sight. The experience mirrored the film's marketing strategy by withholding answers while heightening tension. Rather than explaining the story, it deepened the sense of unease surrounding it. The crossover demonstrated how Super 8 blurred the line between cinema and interactive storytelling, expanding its atmosphere beyond traditional marketing. Fact 20. The alien was never the real threat. By the end of Super 8, it becomes clear that the alien was never meant to be the film's true antagonist. J.J. Abrams has explained that the real danger in the story isn't the creature tearing through a small town, but the way grief and authority suppress emotion. The alien is violent because it's imprisoned, studied, and exploited, mirroring how the adults in the film respond to trauma by burying it instead of confronting it. In contrast, the kids process fear through creativity, collaboration, and honesty. That reversal is intentional. The monster isn't evil, it's reactive, while the human response to fear causes far greater damage. Ending the film with release rather than destruction reframes everything the audience has seen. Super 8 isn't a story about surviving a monster. It's about surviving loss and choosing empathy over control when faced with the unknown. Super 8 may look like a nostalgic throwback on the surface, but behind the scenes it was built through controlled chaos, personal memory, and carefully engineered illusion. From a lead actor who showed up hoping to earn $100, to a creature designed backwards, to a train crash created specifically to lie to your eyes, every part of the film was shaped by intention rather than accident. Even the smallest details, from hidden tributes to improvised moments, reveal how much care went into preserving the feeling of childhood while exploring loss and change. If you enjoyed uncovering the strange and hidden stories behind Super 8, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching for more deep dives into the movies you thought you already knew. And let me know in the comments, which fact changed the way you see the film the most?